Hey, it's Cory Wilkins here at Ears Only Audio, and I'm doing this video for a wonderful new friend of mine, Michelle, and for her entire team over at San Diego State University. We're going to be doing a quick demonstration of the Console 1 by Softube, and as what I have here is some tracks that I recorded with a friend of mine named Gator, and he's actually going to be singing on this coming up after the weekend. And let's just, before we dive in and start seeing what the Console 1 can do, let's take a listen to how our tracks sound completely raw, just a little bit of volume balancing, and absolutely no plugins at all. So you start to have some sort of idea of the kind of song we're working with here and some of the problems that might be coming up from a mixing standpoint. Is what Softube 1 Softube's Console 1 is it is a sort of hybrid hardware and software combination. So it comes with a plugin that emulates an SSL 4000 E-Series channel strip with the SSL filters, the red knob EQ, the SSL channel compressor, and even a knob where you can emulate pushing the input section a little bit harder and driving the console to the point of a little bit of saturation and natural analog breakup. That plugin, however, rather than being controlled on the keyboard for blind users or on the mouse for sighted users, is controlled with this dedicated control surface right here. So you have an input, so you can modify how hot your signal is coming in. You have your filters, your gate. You have a really cool transient designer here, which is not actually featured on the SSL channel strip, but it's amazing. You have your EQ. It's a 4-band EQ. High, low, mid, and high. The high and the low can both be peak or shelving. They do not have a variable Q. The two mid bands are fully parametric with variable Q. Then you have your compressor. One of the cool things, again, that's not featured on the SSL channel compressor on the actual console is you have a mix knob here, so you can dial in a little bit of parallel compression should you want to. And you have your drive function here to sort of emulate some of that saturation. This allows you to mix kind of as if you were on a console. And so the strategy normally is to just instantiate Console 1 onto each of your tracks in a session and go ahead and have tactile control over the EQ and compressor on each channel. You may choose at some point to use some other compressors or whatnot, and that's cool, but you always have a 4-band EQ that sounds phenomenal, filters, a gate, a transient designer, and a fantastic sounding compressor and some saturation distortion literally at your fingertips with the turn of a knob. So let's go ahead and get these plugins on. I'm just going to do a few choice selections real fast, just for the purposes of this video. So we're going to go ahead and put it on the kick. We're using Flow Tools along with the Pro Tools and Voice over here. That is enabling us to have some shortcuts rather than interacting with the track, interacting with the inserts. I can just hit, I want to put these in the C slots just because that's where I always start with my channel strips in case I need something before them. So I'm just going to hit Command 3. Brings up my console. Or my plugin menu.
Reset settings menu pop-up button.
There we go. Snare. I'm going to do kick, snare, overheads, and rooms. We're just going to deal with drums today.
Menu 8 console 1. Plugin. Ignoring next key. Mix.
But I want to illustrate how quickly, once I get these plugins on,
Menu 8 multi-mono plugin. Multi-chat CLA2 at console 1. Press console plugin.
I can
ignoring next key save.
Make very quick and intuitive mixing decisions. I normally do not advocate for mixing a lot in solo, but for the purposes of this video, I am going to solo some things up. So, and I'm also mixing on headphones, which I never do. So, I may have some very, I might overdo it or underdo it on some EQ points or whatever. But this is not intended to be a mixing tutorial. It is intended to be a demonstration of the Console 1. So with Flow Tools, you have this thing called a plugin monitor. And I'm going to activate that by holding down Option and hitting the slash key.
Watching plugin console 1.
This is watching plugin console 1. So now any moves that I make on my console 1 will be voiced by the screen reader on my computer. So I'm just going to make sure that I have channel 1 selected for my kick drum. Oh, I do. Look at that. So let's go ahead and get to a chorus where the kick drum is really working. And let's play, and I'll solo up this kick, and I'll demonstrate a little bit of what we can do. Let's just, in case there's a little low rumble, let's high pass filter.
19 hertz, 31 hertz. Low power.
Right in there's fine. Let's get a little drive.
4.0, 5.0, drive.
Let's get some EQ. There's a little boxiness in there. Let's turn on the EQ, narrow up the Q on the low mid band, boost and sweep.
8.3 dB. EQ low mid 0.70 kHz.
Turn down the voice a little bit. 0.84 do a little mid-range cut there. That automatically makes my kick drum sound more like a normal kick drum. I want to boost a little 60 just to get some guts in here. Not going to be shy. Oh yeah. Let's give it a little 3K. Let's get a little shelf, get some air up top. Give it that kind of aggressive, clicky kind of sound. So I'll bypass the EQ and put it in the mix, and then I'll turn the EQ back on with it in the mix, and you can hear just how that EQ changed it. Put the EQ in. That sounds about 1.5 billion times better. Let's get a little compression going on. I'm going to go for 2-to-1. Go for probably 30 millisecond attack time. Let's go for 100 millisecond release time. Get that threshold going. Okay, we're really smacking it down. Let's see how far. I'm going to leave the plug-in window. I'm going to go over to my kick drum track. I'm going to double tap semicolon to turn on my gain reduction monitor. Sounds like it's slamming a little bit. Crank it up so you hear the gain reduction monitor maybe. Oh yeah, we're going.
-2.
We're in -2 dB, so nothing crazy, but we want that slow attack time, so it lets that transient through. Okay, I'm going to turn off the EQ and the compressor. I'm going to put this in the mix, and then I'm going to turn them both back on. So this is without. Turn them on. That is the kick drum of rock and roll, ladies and gentlemen. All right, let's go ahead and move over to that snare drum and see what we have and what we might be able to do with it to make it really come out in the mix and be aggressive. This song's kind of aggressive. It is a kind of country rock song that's actually written by a guy who, at the time he wrote this, was the president of the VFW Motorcycle Club, and so it's a biker song. So we gotta get a little bit of ass kicking going on. So let's hear what the snare drum sounds like with nothing. We got a little hum, not a lot of bottom end. I want some more bottom end. Get this to have some real weight to it. Let's go ahead and add a high pass filter here to get a little bit of that kick drum out. I hear some kick drum. That sounds nice. Let's get some EQ going on. I am EQing into the compressor because I want the compressor to sort of smack it down so I can make bolder moves on my EQ if I should want to. I can make bolder boosting moves. It's kind of the old SSL trick on the consoles. Most of the guys would EQ into the compressor because they like the sound, and I also like the sound of that compressor clamping down on some larger boosts rather than compressing first and boosting more conservatively. You end up getting the same thing, except your compression envelope is a little bit different. And to me, this actually gets our envelope a little bit more aggressive for this kind of music. It sounds fantastic. But the first thing I want to do here is I want to cut some low mid out of the snare drum. You'll find that I cut a lot of low mids out of a lot of drums, but in this snare drum we have a pronounced sort of humming sound. It sounds like it's right around like 300 hertz or so. So I'm going to go ahead and search and destroy, boost and sweep, and find out where this is, but it sounds like it's around 300-ish. There it is. Look at that. We'll widen this out just a touch because it's kind of a wider bit of nastiness. What I am going to do to help compensate for that is I'm going to boost a little bit, maybe around like 180, 200. Right now it's at 200, just using a peak. Not going to be shy about it. Let's go way too far. I'm going to go down a little bit lower. Boost a little bit in that sort of 5 to 6K range.
5.0 kilohertz, 5.2 kilohertz, 5.6 kilohertz, 5.7.
Just get some of that attack and some of that rattle. Get some air up top. See if I can cut out a little bit more of those low mids now that I've increased the low end a little bit.
Minus 2.3 dB, minus 3.3 dB, minus 3.1 dB, 6.0 dB,
It's not bad. We're still getting some ring, but oh well.
2.6, 4.6 drive, 4.7 drive.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and I am going to use basically the same settings on my compressor. 2-to-1 ratio, 30 millisecond attack, 100 millisecond release time, and just crank up the threshold until I hear it start compressing. Again, we're going we really want to accentuate that attack and make it exciting and aggressive. Sounds like it's slapping pretty good.
Minus 2.
Again, 2 dB. But that's wonderful for really just getting that attack to kind of poke its head out over the mix. I'm going to take this out of solo. We're going to put it in the mix. I'm going to turn off the EQ and compressor like I did on the kick drum. And then I'm going to play it. And then I'll re-engage them. It doesn't matter what anything sounds like in solo. Nobody's going to listen to it in solo.
System dialog. You are currently on system dialog.
Now they're both engaged. Alright, so we did add a fair amount of volume. I'm going to go ahead and turn this down a little bit. I have an output knob.
System dialog.
And you always want to kind of do your best to level match.
T2. Audio T. Snare.c. Minus 5.3. Minus minus 9.5.
So there we go. That's pretty good. It sounds louder. I did turn it down a little bit. It still sounds louder because the compression is sort of evening things out. Okay, let's go to those overheads.
T2. T3. Audio track.
And
T4. Audio track. Oh. Audio track. You are currently on attack. Plugin. Console. Application. Invert.
okay, so I always just have this thing so I don't accidentally manipulate the wrong thing where I just will hit the phase reverse button, the invert button, just to make voiceover say invert, because if I'm on the wrong channel on console 1, it won't say it. So it's just a way for me to double check what's going on. Okay. Oh, that is a tom. Okay. Let's get some overheads. Okay, that's pretty muddy, pretty boxy. Let's start with a high pass filter. We're not going to go too crazy, but now let's go ahead and turn on the EQ and find a couple of those boxy frequencies. Boost and sweep. Okay, let's add a little bit of top. Make these cymbals sort of ring out a little bit. Let's give a little listen without the EQ. With the EQ. Out. In. it with the kick and the snare and see how that sounds. That sounds pretty good. Let's see how it does on the track. Okay, now let's take a look at our rooms, and I'm going to show you something a little bit different. So our rooms just on their own. Little bit boxy again, kind of like the overheads. This was in my old room, which was a little bit boxy. I think this is a pair of ribbons, if I'm not mistaken. I recorded this a long time ago. We're going to use very similar EQ settings to what we did on the overheads. High pass filter. Actually, before we do that, I want to switch this over because I'm going to want to use the FET compressor. So I have a FET compressor that can be controlled by the console 1. I made a preset that's with FET, and so now we'll high pass filter, we'll EQ, then we'll get the compressor going. Okay, that's cool. Let's carve out a little of that boxiness. Let's get that upper mid-band, get a little cut. Oh lordy, that's horrible. That'll give you a headache. I'm also gonna, I'm not gonna give them quite as much bright top end. I am gonna give them a little. And then I'm gonna go ahead and take some back by actually engaging a low pass filter and filtering out some of the top end to kind of make it sound like they're a little bit further away than they actually are. Top end will sort of fizzle out when you get a little bit further away, and along with some bottom end, so you're left with a little bit more mid-range. We're already squeezing the bottom a little bit, so we're going to squeeze the top end a little bit. Alright, now let's go ahead and smack this thing. We'll go extreme. We'll go with an all buttons in setting on the 1176, which, Michelle, when you get to work with one in the studio, you'll see what I mean by all buttons in. We're going to go for kind of a medium attack time and a very fast release. We'll go like just to the fast side of medium on the attack. Then we'll start feeding it. We'll get pretty extreme. So we're really smacking that pretty good now, but it's going to give us a little bit of excitement to sort of fold in underneath the track. See how much we're killing it. It's really, the snare drum's really putting it. We're getting like 7 dB of reduction. But this can really generate some excitement for us. So let's go ahead and put in our kick, our snare, and our overheads. We'll also have the rooms in, but I'm going to pull that fader all the way down, and then I'm going to push it up and blend it into taste. If you have it too far, it's washy. But right here, let's listen if I take it away. Put it back in. All of a sudden, my drums get a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more exciting. Now, just to kind of maybe show you a little bit more what my day-to-day workflow is, I'm going to do 2 instruments, I think, without going through all of my moves. You'll just hear voiceover talking through what I'm doing. And I'm just going to go kind of quickly at my natural pace that I would mix at. So we'll put it on the acoustic track. And then we're going to put it on the guitar that's doing some licks in the chorus because it needs some help. Yeah, this chorus clean strat. So I'm going to not really solo up anything and just work like I normally would. Oops, I want to go here. System dialog. 2.3.0, comp ratio, 14.7, 9.3, 5.7 mils, 8.4 milliseconds, 10.2 milliseconds, comp attack, 0.17 seconds, 0.12 seconds. Snare attack, bass, acoustic, watching. -6. So I'm getting 6 dB of reduction, but I'm also using my wet-dry parallel knob. Electric chorus clean strat. Let's go to the chorus clean strat. This is the one element in the mix that I feel like I didn't record well as a strat, but it's not quite the sound I want. So we're going to try and shape it to get close. 91 hertz, 100, 111 hertz, 100, low cut on, EQ. Loop playback checked.
108 hertz.
So that's a lot closer to that sort of spiky Stratocaster sound that I wanted. So here's without the EQ. With the EQ. We're going to have to compress that, get a little bit more even.
You are current 1.8, 2.0, 2.4, combo 2.5,
2.5 to 1. Pretty fast attack.
14.6 mil, 15.7 milliseconds, 0.10 seconds.
And then a pretty fast.
Pro Tools, ignoring next key. Bass, rhythm, chorus, clean strat. Watch. -4.
40 dB reduction there. I'm happy with that. So, what we just knocked out an acoustic guitar, which is pretty integral to the song, and a Stratocaster that was recorded a way that I wish I hadn't have recorded it, and we knocked that out in what, 3 minutes? Because I have all the controls right at my hands, right in front of me, and I'm also mixing on headphones that I'm not familiar with, and things like that. So that's just a little bit of the power that you get using a Console 1 by Softube. And they do make other channel strips for this, and you can also get other standalone plugins, like I use the FET compressor from Softube, controlling it with the Console 1 controller, but then I just use the software that comes with it, which is the SSL 4000E channel strip. And that is my demo of Console 1. Thank you so much for watching.